Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're asking a pretty big question. How secure, really, and how cost-effective is your cloud data right now?
That's a critical one.
Yeah, and we're diving into something new called Blimp. It's built on the Zeus network, and the claim is, well, it could shake things up.
Significantly, yes.
So our mission today, unpack this. Is this decentralized cloud storage a real alternative to the big guys, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud? Especially for, enterprise users.
And we'll be looking for those aha moments, like the whole idea of zero egress fees.
Exactly. That one definitely caught my eye.
It's such a crucial conversation to be having now. I mean, look at the explosion in data, right? A lot of it driven by AI.
Early.
And businesses are feeling it. Traditional clouds are powerful, no doubt, but those costs can creep up, and there's always that little worry about data control. What's really interesting here, I think, is how Blimp and Zeus seem to be aiming right at those pain points. Security, performance, and predictable costs. That's the goal.
Okay, let's break it down then. Blimp relies on this Zeus network. What exactly is the Zeus network? I hear it's a DePIN.
Yeah, DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure network. Basically, think of it as the underlying engine. It's designed specifically for secure private cloud storage.
And it's decentralized. So my data isn't just in one place.
Precisely. It's not in a single data center. It operates across this global network of independent storage providers. They call them blobbers.
Blobbers.
Yeah. So your data gets distributed across this mesh. It's a fundamentally different approach, built for security from the ground up. And a key part of that is this three-layer security model.
3 layers. Sounds robust. What does that actually involve? Like, for my data?
Okay, so imagine taking your file, right, and not just locking it, but shattering it into tiny encrypted pieces or shards. Then those encrypted shards are scattered across loads of different blobbers all over the world. That's the data fragmentation.
So no one blobber has the whole picture?
Exactly. No single point of failure. No single complete copy anywhere. Not even Zeus themselves can see the whole unencrypted file, ever.
Wow.
Then you've got proxy re-encryption that lets you share data securely without ever revealing your main encryption keys. And the third layer is immutability, meaning once it's stored, it cannot be touched, cannot be altered by anyone. It's genuinely tamper-proof.
Right.
Security baked right into the protocol itself.
So it's not just a policy, it's technically enforced. No single entity sees it, no one can change it, and it's spread out so it's resilient.
That sounds incredibly powerful, almost like decentralizing trust itself.
That's a good way to put it.
But, for a company used to having one throat to choke, like with AWS, how does that distributed trust work in practice? Any downsides from, say, an IT governance angle?
That's a really sharp question. It gets to the core of what true decentralization offers. The big win. Freedom. Freedom from vendor lock-in, freedom from systemic risk.
Like a regional outage taking you down. Exactly. Or censorship, or a massive breach at one provider. Those risks are dramatically reduced because the data isn't concentrated. Now, for IT governance, yeah, it's a mindset shift. Definitely.
Moving from central control to what? Distributed verification.
Precisely. But the transparency and the verifiable security you get from the protocol itself, often that outweighs the initial unfamiliarity. You get more provable security, more autonomy.
Okay, that makes sense. And this distributed approach, it must change the costs too, right? We mentioned zero egress fees earlier. That sounds almost too good to be true for cloud users.
It's a huge deal. This brings us to transparent and predictable pricing. And honestly, this is maybe the biggest differentiator. With Zeus, it's simple. One storage fee. Period.
And no egress fees.
Yeah.
No API call charges.
Zero. None. Think about how painful that can be. You store loads of data, great. But then every time you use it, move it, run an app against it, bam, more charges.
The classic Roach Motel model. Easy to get data in, expensive to get it out.
Exactly. Those egress and API fees, especially with AI training or big data jobs, they can just explode. Completely dwarf the storage cost itself. Zeus just eliminates that headache entirely.
That really is an aha moment for anyone who's seen those bills. True cost predictability. Okay, but performance matters just as much, maybe more for things like AI. How does Zeus handle speed?
Yeah, performance is critical. It's engineered for high performance. And talk about wire speed ingestion and retrieval.
Meaning it's as fast as my internet connection allows.
Essentially, yes. The network itself isn't the bottleneck, your client connection is. For anything needing low latency, real-time analytics, AI training, media streaming, that's vital. Decentralization doesn't mean slow here.
Good to know. And you mentioned governance.
Right. The whole Zeus network is governed by its token holders, the people using the ZCN token. So development is community-driven, aligned with what users actually need.
Okay, that's a really solid foundation with Zeus. So let's bring it back to Blimp. That's the application enterprises actually interact with, positioning itself as AI-ready storage. How does Blimp build on Zeus to deliver value?
So Blimp takes all those Zeus strengths, security, cost predictability, performance, and packages them for businesses. And probably the single most important feature for adoption is S3 compatibility.
So it speaks the same language as Amazon S3.
Exactly. This is huge. Most enterprises already use S3 or S3 compatible storage. They have tools, workflows, applications built around it.
So they don't need to rip and replace everything.
Precisely. They can migrate data pretty seamlessly, integrate Blimp into existing processes. It massively lowers the barrier to entry, reduces the risk. It's designed to be almost a drop-in replacement for S3 buckets in many use cases.
That S3 compatibility is definitely smart, makes switching much less daunting. But what about ongoing use? Does it have the same kind of rich API set and ecosystem integration people expect from, say, AWS S3? Or is it more focused?
That's a fair question. Blimp's S3 compatibility covers the core storage operations: reading, writing, listing files, managing buckets. That handles the bulk of what most applications need for storage interaction.
Okay.
It might not have the entire sprawling ecosystem of integrated services you find on a hyperscaler, like, directly triggering serverless functions from storage events or specialized database integrations built right in. Its strength is really laser-focused on that high-performance, super secure, cost-predictable storage, especially for large data sets and AI workloads.
So it does the core job very well and is compatible, but maybe not all the bells and whistles yet.
Right. But the ecosystem around Zeus is growing, driven by that community governance we mentioned. So more integrations are likely over time.
Okay. What else makes Blimp stand out for enterprises beyond S3 compatibility?
Another big plus is customizable storage. It's not a one-size-fits-all black box. Users get real control. You can set parity levels, basically how much redundancy you want for your data shards across the network.
So you can tune for resilience versus cost.
Exactly. You can even choose blobbers based on geography or performance. That's a level of control you often don't get. And then there's disaster recovery. This is crucial. Blimp has this always-on repair mechanism. Combined with the inherent redundancy, they aim for 0 RPO and 0 RTO.
Zero recovery point objective and zero recovery time objective. That means essentially no data loss and instant recovery.
That's the goal. Virtually no data loss, immediate availability if something happens to some nodes. For mission-critical stuff, that's incredibly valuable. Peace of mind.
Wow, zero RPorto is a very bold claim. That's huge for business continuity. Okay, Blimp is clearly making a strong case. Let's shift to the competition. This decentralized storage market is growing, right? Projected at $4.5 billion by 2034.
Yeah, significant growth predicted.
So how does Blimp plan to grab a slice of that pie, facing off against both the established giants and other decentralized projects?
It's definitely a competitive space. First, you've got the traditional centralized clouds, AWS, Azure, GCP. We know their strengths. Huge scale, market dominance, trust built over years, massive service portfolios.
They're the incumbents for a reason.
Absolutely. But Blimp hits them where it hurts. That transparent pricing, especially the zero egress fees, that offers a potentially massive TCO, total cost of ownership advantage, especially for AI, big data, anything that moves data around a lot.
So cost is a big lever.
A huge one. Plus the superior security model against single-point failures and the escape from vendor lock-in. Those are powerful arguments for enterprises feeling constrained or worried about risk. It's about cost, yes, but also control and resilience.
Right. It tackles those core concerns. But what about within the decentralized world itself? There are others like Filecoin, Storage, Arweave. They share the decentralization goal, don't they? How does Blimp stand out there?
Good point. Yes, those are important players, pioneers in many ways. They've built protocols, communities, and definitely advanced the cause of decentralized storage.
So what's Blimp's edge?
Blimp's key differentiator, its niche, is the very sharp focus on enterprise-grade, AI-ready use cases.
So specialization.
Exactly. While others might offer more general-purpose decentralized storage, Blimp is really engineered and optimized for what businesses, especially those in data-heavy fields, need right now. The S3 compatibility makes adoption easy for them. The wire speed performance is critical for their workloads. And that predictable cost model directly addresses the pain points of scaling AI and big data operations. It's less about being a decentralized option and more about being the decentralized option for demanding enterprise and AI workloads.
Okay, so it's targeting a specific high-value segment with features tailored precisely for them. That makes sense. Which leads us to growth. Sounds like a strong product market fit, especially with AI booming and companies worrying about data sovereignty security costs.
So what's the plan? How does Blimp scale this globally?
The potential is definitely there, and the strategy seems quite methodical, broken into phases. Phase 1 is all about getting that initial enterprise foothold in key areas.
Like targeting specific industries. Exactly. Highly regulated ones, finance, healthcare, legal, where security and compliance are paramount. And data-heavy sectors, AI research, media, autonomous tech, geographically, they'd likely focus first on major hubs, North America, Western Europe, maybe key Asian markets like Singapore, South Korea, Japan.
Places with lots of data and regulations?
Right, and getting lighthouse customers is critical in this phase. Big, recognizable names that prove the value proposition. That builds trust like nothing else.
Makes sense. What else in phase 1?
Making sure they have high-quality blobbers in those regions is key. For low latency, high availability, and meeting local rules like GDPR in Europe. And crucially, making it easy to switch, offering free or heavily subsidized S3 migration support helps lower that barrier significantly.
Get the big fish on board, prove it works, make switching easy. Sounds smart. What's phase 2?
Phase 2 is about scaling up global expansion via partnerships and localization. This means teaming up with global managed service providers, MSPs, and system integrators.
That's nice.
Leveraging their existing relationships and sales channels. Exactly. They become trusted advisors recommending Blimp. At the same time, deep localization is vital, translating everything, marketing, docs, support, but also really emphasizing how Blimp helps meet local data sovereignty rules, which are different everywhere.
Yeah, that's a big selling point these days.
Definitely. Plus, setting up regional sales and support teams for that local presence, and fostering an open source ecosystem, grants, hackathons to get developers building on Zeus, creating more value and network effects.
So build the channel, localize everything, and grow the ecosystem, okay? And the final phase.
Phase 3 is about hitting broad market adoption and staying ahead through innovation. This involves making onboarding super simple, even for non-technical folks, expanding the potential user base beyond just IT pros.
Making it more mainstream.
Right. And continuous R&D is essential. Adding features enterprises need, like better multi-user controls, single sign-on, SSO, advanced analytics on data usage, and finally, constant market education, thought leadership, case studies, benchmarks to cement Blimp not just as an alternative, but as a leading choice.
It's definitely a comprehensive plan. Clearly, Blimp isn't aiming small. It really does seem like a strategic push to disrupt cloud storage as we know it. Offering that decentralized alternative with tangible benefits in security, cost, and control seems really timely.
It really does. And it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? As data becomes even more critical and AI keeps demanding more secure, fast, predictable storage. How long can traditional trust in centralized players hold up against the built-in advantages of decentralization? Things like genuine data ownership, verifiable transparency, and maybe most tangibly, freedom from those unpredictable egress fees.
Yeah.
What does that shift mean for your data strategy, whether you're running a massive enterprise or just trying to manage your own digital life more securely and affordably? It's definitely something to think about in this data-driven world.